Hey everybody, Gunnison Undercover here. Today is Monday, July 22nd, 2019. Time is 2:36 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's cooled off a little bit here in New Jersey. It's now in the 80s, but the doggone humidity is way up there. So we have an update on this Blue Zero Hero, despicable piece of turd that killed his baby girl. I hate to even say his name. Daniel Bannister, 31. Here's his ugly picture right there. Look at him. This is the guy that was a trained professional, out risking his life, protecting and serving the community. Unfortunately, he didn't apply any of that to his little 3-month-old daughter. NJ.com has an update, and we're going to find out exactly what he did to this poor little baby. The first time I read it, it brought tears to my eyes because I just can't imagine the horror and the pain and suffering that this poor little baby had to go through at the hands of her father. I mean, the worst betrayal you possibly could have is your family member, your mother, your father doing this to you. Okay, and the mother, Catherine Bannister, she's no better. She enabled the whole thing. She stood idly by and knew all about this. Now this was released on, let's see what the date on this. This was released July 19th. So I had to sit on it a few days. It was just too disturbing for me to read about. The investigation of Haley Bannister's death, December death, lasted longer than her life. Over 7 months, Mercer County detectives pored over the texts her parents sent to each other and a friend, interviewed family members, and talked to doctors who treated the 3-month-old before she stopped breathing one day at her Ewing home. What they found and alleged in 2 court documents was her police father abused the girl for most of her brief life, fracturing her skull and ribs and leaving her covered in bruises, all because he wasn't bonding with his newborn as he hoped. And her mother knew all about the abuse and was concerned but did not report it to authorities or doctors, the documents say. The fatal injury, detectives said, occurred later November, likely on the 23rd. Haley Bannister died on December 11th. Daniel Bannister, 31, is charged with her murder. His wife, Catherine Bannister, 29, faces charges of endangering the welfare of a child. She should be charged with, what's the word, conspiring to murder a kid, or accessory to the murder. Yeah, that's it, accessory. Because you knew about it, you did nothing about it, you're just as guilty. I mean, if I'm in the car, driving a car, my friend jumps out of the car and wants to go rob a bank or something, I got to stop him. I don't sit there in the car and wait for him to get back and take him from the scene. I get charged just as bad as he does. But not in this case, for whatever reasons. Catherine Bannister was oh my goodness, so she's a kindergarten teacher at Foundation Academies in Trenton. So this little monster, the wife, worked with children, where she started working in 2014 according to her LinkedIn page. The Foundation Board approved extended paid maternity leave for her on December 19th and in May voted not to renew her contract. Good. First responders arrived at Bannister's residence at Gilmore Road December 5th, 2018 when Catherine Bannister called 911 because Haley was having difficulty breathing. Doctors at Capitol Health Regional Medical Center in Hopewell determined the infant had a fractured skull, brain bleed, and fractured ribs according to the probable cause after discharging the Bannisters. Detectives started investigating Haley's death that day, December 5th. Now, I want to say something. Thumbs up to the detectives who stayed on this, and they kept with it in persistence. She was listed in critical condition and later transferred to Robert Wood Johnson Hospital in New Brunswick. She died there on December 11th. An autopsy ultimately concluded in May that Haley died from blunt force trauma to the head. Her wounds revealed ongoing abuse visible from 9 skull fractures, some of which showed signs of healing, leading investigators to determine she had been hit multiple times on different dates according to the documents. There was also signs she had been shaken and 4 ribs fractured weeks before her death. This poor little girl, fractured ribs. Now, I know what it's like to have an injured rib, and breathing is painful. And I could just imagine this poor little girl. When investigators initially spoke to her parents separately, Bannister told them he was home with Haley and their 2-year-old son December 5th while his wife was at work. He said he went to check on her after placing her in a bouncer and found her breathing to be odd and shallow, according to this poor little boy. You know, she's got broken ribs and they got her in a bouncer? He allegedly said he took her out of the bouncer just as Catherine Bannister came home to breastfeed her. He said his wife called 911 as he attempted CPR on the, oh my God, and she's got broken ribs, and there is a probably, who knows, could have been puncture in her lungs. Danny Bannister also said his 2-year-old son had accidentally hit the infant in the head on the cemetery. Look, he's throwing his kid under the, his son under the bus. Catherine Bannister told investigators she had woken up the morning of the 5th, fed Haley and put her in the swing before leaving work. She told detectives she'd been taking Haley to the doctor several times a week before, even once bringing her daughter to a hospital. Haley was diagnosed with reflux and given medication, the documents say. But she also told investigators that Haley was a cranky baby who cried a lot and her husband had trouble bonding with the infant, according to the documents. She had asked him to be gentler with the baby. She told investigators, you know, when babies cry, they can't communicate. Their way of crying, way of communicating is crying. And babies, you know, they could be hot, they could be cold, they could have indigestion, they could have not feel well. You know, you're always laying on your stomach all the time. I know I lay not on my stomach, but on your back all the time. At some point, it gets to be a problem. I don't think the human body is designed to be horizontal like that all the time. Catherine Bannister repeatedly told her husband that she was concerned with how he handled Haley, but that he had left bruises on her face, head, and midsection, according to the charging documents. She did not, however, tell doctors about the bruises, according to the documents. In a text from October 4th, when Haley would have been just over a month old, Catherine Bannister confronted Danny Bannister about bruising around the baby's mouth that allegedly came from him pressing the finger against her mouth to stop her from crying. Days later, she texted a friend who worked at a pediatric nurse about Danny Bannister's abusive behavior towards her daughter, but asked her not to report it. She told a friend she had told her husband he was abusive and couldn't touch the infant again unless he took a class on early childhood developments. Well, that's not going to do any good, because we all know that these blue zero hero turd cops, they always resort to violence when they have to solve a problem. The friend offered Catherine Bannister and the children a place to stay, urging her to get away from her husband. On November 1st, Catherine Bannister took a photo of bruising Haley's ribs and sent it to Danny Bannister while at a doctor's appointment. Hopefully doctors won't see, she allegedly texts. A doctor later pinned the date of Haley's fatal head injuries as November 23rd, the day after Thanksgiving. Alleged text confirmed Danny Bannister was home alone with the children that morning. During another doctor's visit on 23rd, Catherine Bannister sent her husband a photo of bruise on Haley's head. She threw up again a lot, she texted him. Yeah, the poor kid had a concussion. She suspected her daughter might have a concussion, but did not raise those concerns with pediatricians, according. You know, this is a long article here. It's just, you know, just despicable. This cop, this Daniel Bannister, this Ewan Township cop, is a piece of garbage. And we can only help, he's going to get convicted, there's no doubt about that. We don't have the death penalty here in New Jersey. I wish we did, because I'd be more than happy to march him to the gallows, put the noose around his neck, and pull out the trip board underneath him. I'd have no problem with doing it, none whatsoever. And the last thing that he would see would be a picture of that little girl, what he did to her. He's just, how this guy ever got a job is beyond me too. It makes me wonder who was he connected to that got him hired. How did he pass these psychological evaluations? It just goes to show you, every time we read these stories, that these psychological evaluations that these blue zero hero turds go through, they're useless. They don't identify anything. It's just, they fake it. It doesn't catch anything. There's just too many stories out there. This is just New Jersey alone that I report on. He'll get convicted, and because he's a cop, that's the first strike against him. And because he killed a child, He will never be in general population. I'm not even sure they'll be able to put him in protective custody unit where he'll be with other people, because he's a cop and a baby killer, and so hopefully he will spend the rest of his life in solitary confinement. And one can only hope that somebody in that prison will administer the proper punishment for that cop, because in my opinion, he doesn't deserve to see another breath. He doesn't deserve to see another sunrise. He doesn't deserve to see another birthday. He is despicable. To do that to a baby, I mean, the baby, the poor little girl, she can't run. She can't fight back. She's defenseless against this turd. And I would say, you know, you got a baby and you can't handle it, then it's time to man up or woman up and say, you know what, I'm not the person for this job. I can't have this baby. See if there's a family member can take the baby. Go to an agency. There's plenty of people out there that want a baby, want a child. And this woman, this other despicable human being, her efforts to save that little girl were weak at best. And I would say this to any mother out there. You got a boyfriend, you got a husband, and he's abusing your children. You get rid of him. You take those children out of that environment. I know what it's like. I was one of those people who was a victim of a step-parent, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. It made my childhood miserable. She did nothing. She covered for this asshole. That's exactly what she did. She covered for him and that poor little girl. Every time I see her picture, it breaks my heart. I have a daughter, and so it hurts me even more. So I'll put the link to the story. You can read the rest of it. And if we ever happen to find out who the judge is going to be on this case, then I will follow up on the story and post his name, and we will have to email flood so that this cop never gets out of prison, that he will spend the rest of his life in prison. I hope he spends, I mean, if they can't administer a little jail justice, I hope he just stays in a little 4x6 cubicle and never sees anybody again. And if I have my way, I'd have his daughter's picture posted up on the wall so he can look at her every day. In fact, I would rather him look at her dead body every day so he could be reminded what he did. It's just a piece of garbage, this poor little girl. One can only hope there's a heaven and she's there when her life doesn't go, she didn't lose her life in vain. And I'll finish it up with this. This is really... This really is the reason I do what I do. These turds can't do this to people anymore, especially children. I'm sorry, people. It just bothers me so much.